Welcome back, and let's just quickly cut across to the India Economic Conclave, where Vaidyanathan, Chairman of Capital First, is speaking. Let's listen in.
One of these, if it's being consumed by the order of magnitude about 2.5 times of today, which means more production, more workers, more distributors, more dealers, more salespeople, more service employees, the whole ecosystem and the employment related to that is a spin-off effect when this 2.5 times increase in consumption begins to happen in 2025. Number three, per capita income at that point of time is expected to increase from the current number of $1,800 to $1,900 to $3,500. Above a particular point of about $2,000, the disposable or discretionary consumption begins to kick off disproportionately. And therefore, discretionary income is expected to increase 4 times of what it is today in 2025, when India will reach its $5 trillion economy. You think of any industry in financial services, which is where I come from, whether it is mutual funds, banking, insurance, or any other, roughly give or take, between 2.5 times to 3 times will be the size of every single industry in 2025 when we touch $5 trillion. And 3 times of today is definitely very inspirational and is also a very large number. Now, when we compare the general behavior or impact of growth of GDP from the last time it moved from 1 trillion to the 2.5 to the next 8 years when it is going to come from 2.5 to $5 trillion, there is something very different between these two GDPs. And let me point that out to you. Historically in India, for the last many decades, when economy grew, the biggest beneficiaries were first the large corporates. Even today, until about a year ago, corporates, a handful of them, maybe about 2,000 of them, have about 40% of the banking credit. And small and medium corporates, millions of them, have only 18% of the Indian banking credit. That was then. But what is the difference between now to the next doubling of our GDP? This is set to change. Why? Because of two factors. One, because both the Reserve Bank of India and the government is acutely aware of this issue and is trying to move credit to the relative bottom of the pyramid among the small entrepreneurs. Number two, the financial ecosystem or the digital ecosystem has so dramatically changed during the last 5 years that it is now possible to reach credit to the lower end of the Indian corporate micro-entrepreneurial system. It is not just an intent from all players of the ecosystem, it's an ability, and that ability has got created in the last 5 years. That ability reflects itself in the form of the 300 million Jan Dhan accounts being opened, the availability of analytics, the availability of data, the availability of credit bureau, which is now close to about 600 million records, which was 150 million records just 8 years ago. So basically, with the availability of the new financial ecosystem or the digital ecosystem, it is possible to reach credit to the bottom of the pyramid, which could not be done before. And this is going to be the biggest change in the quality of the doubling of GDP, which we're going to experience now, vis-a-vis what we experienced before. And therefore, this small entrepreneurs being 18% of the credit of the Indian system may not be 18%, say 8 years from now. It could well be 25 or 30%, and that's a very big change. Therefore, if we see such strong benefits for everybody in the ecosystem as a result of this growing GDP, whether consumption or investments or democratization of credit, or like our Honorable President spoke during the ET Awards, saying the democratization of opportunities, which I thought was an extremely powerful concept put forward by him. Now, when we are going to see such sort of a sea change happening in our ecosystem and within our lives, it will be a huge privilege for all of us going through such a transformational change in this country during our lifetimes. Now, how do we fast forward the story? We must start by accepting that our country has made giant strides on reforms over the last 5 to 7 years, and particularly during the last 5 years. I must name just a few of them, and I'm sure every one of you will not only relate to them, but also acknowledge every one of them. GST, such a complex and difficult piece to pull off across so many states and so many cities and villages, and different people at different levels of IT preparedness across so many industries and so many lobbies, was an extremely difficult one, and that took really entrepreneurial effort from the government to pull it off. Number 2, implementation of RERA in the benefit of the consumers. Number 3, the Benami Transaction Act. Number 4, the direct benefit transfer. The last I read was that 10 lakh ghost ration cards have been removed and 3.68 lakh metric tons of grains have been saved because of direct benefit transfer. It's a huge reform to avoid such wastage. Number 4, aligning fuel prices with the global markets. It's a hugely political issue, no doubt. But for us to say that this is what we purchase the fuel at and this is what we'll sell it to the public and we're not going to subsidize this and to stay consistent with that over the years, I thought takes huge political courage, and I think this government needs to be truly appreciated for that. Number 5, opening up of FDI was a huge one. Number 6, bankruptcy code. There is none bigger than that because it brings capitalism. It's a true story that entrepreneurs can die too. And lastly, the Monetary Policy Committee. The list goes on. Now, this is a long list of reforms which will have transformational impact in the country over the next few years. Now, the impact on the common man's life is even more dramatic. I read a couple of days ago that access to LPG in our country, which is clean cooking gas, has moved up from 56% in 2014 to 89% in 2018. It's a big change in the common man's life. Our country has reached the 24th rank in the World Bank's ease of getting electricity in 2018, jumping 87 points in 4 years, which is indeed a very remarkable progress. Now, having electricity, having clean cooking gas, indeed is impact on the common man's life. Since the budget is around the corner, I cannot avoid this opportunity of making one small recommendation for those in power. One thing can be that small entrepreneurs today pay the same tax rate as the large corporates. They suffer certain disadvantages of scale, higher interest cost, and so on and so forth. If it could be a progressive tax code for small entrepreneurs with the entry-level tax being as low as maybe 5% or 10%, then small entrepreneurs will get some sort of an advantage over the large corporates, at least on the tax structure is concerned, and hopefully this will be an easier reform to implement than the other difficult ones which we have pulled off. Now, all in all, therefore, in summary, our country has made significant strides in reforms, has made almost a 7 to 7.5% the base case of growth, which I think is fantastic, and the implication across the ecosystem we talked about, and in the common man's life, and the availability of resources for growth, and the resources for Human Development Index improvement, I think are significant benefits of the $5 trillion economy coming in front of us. We are all greatly excited by it. I was rummaging through a quote which I came across from one of the Hindi movies, which said as follows: if in the context of our own growth and wanting to remove people out of poverty, this goes best. It says, "Bhagwan ke bharose mat baitho, kya pata Bhagwan hamare bharose baitha ho." So basically, if we want to come out of poverty, if we want to make the improvement in the lives of people, then it is no choice but to do proactively, not pray to the gods, not do any other trips, but basically to improve the economy by doing reforms and focusedly improving the ease of doing business and
And that was Vaidyanathan of Capital First speaking about what changes can be made to make India get into the 5 trillion economy in the coming years. He also speaks about how the reforms like GST, RERA, DBT, fuel price deregulations are a big leg up for the economy and how they will benefit the country going ahead, and also gave a suggestion to the government saying that reduce the taxation on the small entrepreneurs in order to reduce burden on them. That was Vaidyanathan at the India Economic Conclave.